Hello, boys and girls. Welcome back to Art Class with Mr. Mazer. This week, we're going to read the story Willow by Denise Brennan Nelson and Rosemary Brennan. And we're going to be creating a beautiful butterfly. I'm going to show you a really cool way to make it perfectly symmetrical. So, let's start off with the story Willow. Even on the sunniest days, Miss Hawthorne's art room was cold and dark. Everything was in its place. There wasn't a single broken crayon in the bunch. The students sat in their rows, silent and still, like eggs in a carton, except for Willow. Rosy-cheeked Willow twisted around in her seat to look out the window. "Face forward, young lady!" Miss Hawthorne's icy blue eyes glared at Willow. Willow shivered. Miss Hawthorne's moods were as dark as her clothing. One day in September, Miss Hawthorne handed out paper, paintbrushes, and paints. She told her students to make pictures of a tree and hung an example on the board. All the students painted trees with straight brown trunks and round green tops. Everyone except Willow. "Who ever heard of a pink tree?" Miss Hawthorne asked with a frown. "That's what I saw when I closed my eyes," said Willow. A few students giggled. Sam snorted. "Pink stinks." The next week, Willow carried her well-loved art book to school. In it was a picture of a flamingo pink tree painted by a famous artist. "Look," Willow pointed, giving Miss Hawthorne her most magical smile. Miss Hawthorne glanced at the picture, then turned away with a scowl. "Horrid little girl," she muttered as Willow skipped off. In October, Miss Hawthorne passed out paper, paintbrushes, and paints. She told her students to make pictures of an apple tree and hung an example on the board. All the students painted trees with straight brown trunks, round green tops, and red apples. Everyone except Willow. Miss Hawthorne pointed with a long bony finger. "Look at the mess you've made." "And there is no such thing as a blue apple." "But that's what I saw when I closed my eyes," said Willow. Some of the students giggled. Sam laughed especially hard. "Yeah, who ever heard of a blue apple?" The next week, Willow carried her well-loved art book to school. She showed Miss Hawthorne a picture of a tree with blue apples. Then she reached into her backpack and took out a blue apple. "This is for you," she said, handing it to Miss Hawthorne. Miss Hawthorne's face turned crimson. "Horrid little girl," she muttered as Willow skipped off. Autumn flew past. Willow always seemed to be in trouble in Miss Hawthorne's class. "Stop daydreaming, Willow." "You broke another crayon, Willow." "Willow, put that book away." Most of all, Willow got into trouble for not painting things the way Miss Hawthorne wanted her to. The day before winter vacation began, students brought presents for their teachers. No one brought a present for Miss Hawthorne, except for Willow. Miss Hawthorne stood at the window watching Willow and the other students board their buses. She wasn't in any hurry to leave. No one was waiting for her at home. Miss Hawthorne walked to her desk. She was surprised to see a gift. No one ever gave her gifts. "To Miss Hawthorne, my art teacher, from Willow." Miss Hawthorne slowly unwrapped the package. Nestled in a bed of tissue paper was Willow's well-loved art book. Miss Hawthorne sat holding the book for a long time. It was dark outside when she walked to the cabinet where the art supplies were kept locked away. Miss Hawthorne filled her arms with paintbrushes, paints, colored pencils, and a sketch pad and carried them to her desk. She flipped open the sketch pad and stared down at the blank page. Finally, Miss Hawthorne picked up a colored pencil. For the first time in her life, Miss Hawthorne doodled. Outside, the wind howled. Trees creaked and strained and broke where they could not bend. Snowflakes swirled upward. The lights flickered off. Miss Hawthorne sat in the darkness. When the lights came back on, Miss Hawthorne's fingers found the wet paint and spread it across the page. The school custodian poked his head into the classroom. He stopped, astonished at what he saw. Across town, Willow stood at her bedroom window, peering at the soft, fat snowflakes through her spyglass. After a while, she climbed into bed and fell asleep, wondering if Miss Hawthorne liked her present. When the students returned to school in January, everything was the same as always, except the art room. With wide eyes and open mouths, the students stood rooted in the doorway. Willow was the first to step inside. Behind a graceful willow tree covered in paint from head to toe, a woman was painting. "Do you know where Miss Hawthorne is?" Willow asked. When the woman turned around, the students gasped. "Miss Hawthorne?" asked Willow. "Oh, I'm so glad you're here, Willow," Miss Hawthorne said. "Grab the paintbrushes. I need your help." Delighted, the students did as they were asked. This time, everyone painted just the way they wanted. Especially Willow. Yeah, that was a fun story to read. So this week, we're going to be painting a beautiful butterfly. So you're going to need a paper, a pencil, and a black crayon. And at school, we're going to be using watercolor paints. So we're going to use a bowl of water and our lovely little paint trays. And you may need a pair of scissors as well. So today we're going to be drawing a symmetrical butterfly. Now I am going to be making a monarch butterfly, and you see from these pictures, these are the butterflies that we usually see around here in Texas. They're pretty common. I saw one flying around my yard yesterday, actually. So here's how we're going to make it symmetrical. And when I say symmetrical, I mean the same on both sides. So if we're looking at this butterfly here, if I drew a line down the middle, it's pretty much exactly the same on this side and that side. And people are the same way. If we drew a line down the middle of us, you'd see one side is pretty much the same as the other. So we're going to do that to our butterfly. So I'm going to take my paper and fold it in half. Now today, I'm only going to draw half of my butterfly, and I'm going to show you how to turn it from half into a whole butterfly. So I'm going to start by drawing it in pencil, and I'm going to draw very lightly. So if I'm only drawing half of the butterfly, I'm only going to draw half of its body and one wing. So I'm going to draw the body here, and they're kind of long shaped like this. I'm going to give them an antenna. And I'm going to make a nice big wing. Now the butterfly, the wing, is the really important, beautiful thing that you see. So I'm going to make a nice big wing. And then I'm going to draw those lines that you see inside of a butterfly. And you can make these any kind of way you want. You can just make a couple. If you want to make a whole bunch, you're the artist. So I'll let you decide how many you do. So if you can see that, so I'm only drawing half of my butterfly. Now next, I'm going to go trace over my pencil lines with a black crayon. Now while I'm doing this, I am going to make my lines. I'm going to color this all in black. And we're going to make those lines really dark and really thick. So I'm going to go over with my crayon and darken those lines and make them really, really thick and black. And in a minute, you're going to see why. So I'm going to trace over all of these, just like a real monarch butterfly would have. thick and dark. That's what we want to do today. Keep it thick and keep it real dark. Now, after I've finished tracing all of my butterfly, this is when the magic happens. So I'm going to fold my paper up. I'm going to take some scissors. You could also use a ruler to do this, or anything that's really hard. And I'm going to use the handle of my scissors. And I'm going to rub my paper like this, all over, especially where the butterfly is. And this is a fun, magical trick that we do in art to make things perfectly symmetrical, the same on both sides. So after I open it, I can see it transferred to the other side, and I can see it all really well. Now, if there are parts that you can't see, you can fold it. Just remember where that is. That's going to be this part here. Rub it really well again. And you see it popped right back. Now, after I've done that, I'm going to go back in and retrace all of these things. Create my beautiful butterfly. Now, after I've traced it all, if we look, we can see it looks exactly the same. So now we are going to paint it. So we're going to use our watercolors. Now, if you want to do it traditional and keep the monarch butterfly mostly orange and red, you could do that. You could change it and do other colors. It's totally up to you. So I'm going to take my brush, dip into my paint. So we want to get those nice and wet. So I'm going to dip in a couple times, that nice and wet. Then I'm going to paint. Now, once I have painted a section, then I'm going to go to the other side and do it the exact same color. So we want to keep it symmetrical, the same on both sides, like a real butterfly would be. Now, after I finish painting one section, I'm going to clean my brush in the water, so I'm going to rinse it out really well. Then I look at it, and I'll hold that up real close. Make sure all that red paint's off before you go and stick it in another color, because we don't want to mix these colors up in the tray, because then whoever uses them next is going to get dirty paint, and that's not going to be fun for them. So always clean your brush before you switch colors. Okay? So, as you can see, you're going to go through and paint your whole butterfly. Now, if you're at home and don't have paints, you could color this with marker, crayon, colored pencil, anything you got. And then if you want to paint the background, you can. By background, I mean the space around it. If you want to use your scissors and cut it out and have a pretty cutout butterfly to use, it's totally your choice. Hope you enjoyed making a symmetrical butterfly this week, kids. And we'll see you again next time.